So we are continuing with our class. We have been looking at ethics, trying to do some definitions. And briefly with the team that I had last week, we entered into to clarify and classifications of what we need or what we do, what we use to be ethical, and some standards in which we use to be ethical. Today, I want to move forward to look at the issues of moral reasoning. As usual, I will share with you the notes which are already posted, and I believe that the entire class has gone through them. So I believe that everybody has gone through these notes, and that makes our class faster and easier so that we don't lose much. So we are now looking at the art of moral reasoning. And I want to begin with the questions. Do human beings, me and you, and another person elsewhere, black, red, white, yellow, I don't know, with Chinese eyes or with African eyes or whatever, do humans grow in art of moral reasoning? Do we grow morally? Let me put it that way. Do we grow morally? The question is to you. Do we grow morally so that you are reasoning at this stage today, tomorrow, the other week, next week, the other year, and at some stage you develop? Do we grow morally?
I think we do.
How? And what evidence do you have?
Professor, I think we do grow morally depending on the age and exposure. Like you mentioned, that the way someone was reasoning at a given age, due to growth and exposure, they can change their reasoning to one that is morally acceptable. And hence, I think that we do grow morally.
Experience and exposure, according to you, will determine the way somebody will reason. I think that's what I get from you. Somebody else? Barunji, you have something to say?
I would say maybe it's more of a learning process. We learn through it's something that we learn. So how that, I don't think it's an aspect of learning. It's an aspect of learning, really. A young child will have to be told, do this, don't do this. It's at that point that that child will know this act is wrong, this act is good. Even as in adulthood, if I left this place and went to a different place, I'll have to learn the values that a different society perceives as good. So I think morality is something that we learn.
So if it is learned, can it be unlearned?
Yes, yes.
You can also unlearn morality.
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes, doctor. I also agree with Hafsa
Yes.
and Yes,
Do
teacher.
we grow?
Yes, we grow, and at the same time, we also learn. We grow, like Afsa said, by age and exposure, but also I'll add that even the social environment. Maybe from the social environment, we get to learn different things, and also the societal settings or community, or I can take it to culture, also has an impact on the learning or the growth. Because the way you were reasoning at primary level is not the same way you're reasoning at undergraduate level. Neither is it the same way you're reasoning at the master's level. So you see, there's some growth. And when you're working in a certain employment, let me give an example sector that's finance. When you switch and go to, let me say, a social science sector, your reasoning is going to change. Though you have still have that understanding the other side, but reasoning is going to change, and then there will be either growth or
Those who are
learning.
used to the New
That
Testament in the Bible will remember what St. Paul told were they Galatians? I don't know who it was, but he said that when he was a child, he reasoned as a child. When he grew older, he reasoned as an older person. So in a way, even biblically, it is recognized that we definitely grow in reasoning. The reasoning of a child is different from the reasoning of an old person. And I also remember at some stage when we were looking at the rational person, I said that we have the two processes, or the three processes of a potential reasoning person or rational person, a fully active reasoning person, and also somebody who has lost the reasoning capacity because of emotions, because of age, or because of the head that it does not work properly. So at some stage, we can also lose reasoning. So reasoning is possible. So if it could be learned, we grow, we learn it as we grow. It can also be an art. It can also be the way we train ourselves to do it. And this part of the course that we are working on, the art of reasoning, is to lead us to know how actually do we reason. How do we reason morally? How do we reason morally? So I just want to skip some of these things. We can come to them later on. But I had some 4 questions that I put forward. I say, do humans develop morally? I think we have already answered that. Yes, we develop morally. So then the second question is, how does someone get involved in moral issues? How do we get involved? So if we develop morally, at what stage do we get involved into moral issues? And of course, if you are involved into a moral issue, it means that you are using your judgment, your conscience, that has already told you that this is wrong, don't do it. This is right, do it. This is wrong, although it is wrong, go and do it. This is right, although it is right, don't do it. There is a way you have formed your conscience and you have formed your judgment and of what to follow. And again, the other question that is that follows is that there are times when you act when you actually wouldn't have acted that way. There are times when you do an action and looking at it at a glance after some time, you feel you wouldn't have done it. And that action that you have done is led by emotions. So the question is, what part do our emotions play in forming the judgment of our conscience? So can we always say that if emotions are too high, we dismiss the culpability or the ownership of the action that you have done. And those are the questions that we need to answer. So every human, no matter the system of morality, they have evaluative judgment that involves conscience. So what I'm talking about now is that whatever society you come in, whatever system you come in, whatever option of acting of morality you hold, you will have to evaluate a judgment that you must follow. And that evaluation of that judgment involves what we call conscience. So this conscience develops and it is formed through a process. So this conscience that we use to do actions or leave actions, to choose through alternatives, choose this from the other, develops and forms and is formed by a certain cognitive process. I am not sure that I should go into it, but we can shallowly try to go to pass through some of the things that I put forward. So conscience itself is understood as an act. Maybe better ask you. What is conscience? What is conscience? Maybe first put our question. And if you want, I can. There are people who fear talking in class and find it easy to talk through the board and the other actions. I can also bring forth our board so that we can ask ourselves. I'm putting forward a board, the Jamboard, and I'm sharing it with the Barunji, with the 3 people who are in the class. So I share. Why it is happening. So have you seen the board that I've sent you?
The one you shared in the message section?
Has it come in the message section? I'm not sure how it came to you, but I've sent a board.
Let's try to look for it.
The jam, it could come to my email again. I don't know. Let me check. So, but Hasif had already answered something which we could still go to. Do you get the board? It does not allow. Do you see the board?
We see something in the message, under the chat,
Mm.
but we shared like 3 of them.
Okay, pick one. One it goes the same. Have you opened it? Okay, I see Barunchi has joined. What do you understand by the term conscience? Yusuf, I say you also on it. I think the quicker we do, the better for everyone.
I think we may have to be given rights because we only have we can only view, we cannot edit.
Cannot edit.
This.
Okay, let me see what I can review. Oh yeah. Now you can edit, all of you. What you understand by the term conscience, you put it down and then you talk to it. Yusuf has already shared with us. Thank you very much, Yusuf. Another one.
I do not have the. Okay, let me check my mail and see.
Do you need to go to the mail? You check from the message, the messenger.
Surprisingly, I cannot do much on this board.
Why not?
I don't know, the icons I would use to have my input written on are not popping up on the side. So
okay, so we have Yusuf first, then another one. Okay, we can go with what Yusuf has written, as other people will be also commenting. So Yusuf, tell us what you mean by this. Yusuf, you say that conscience is awareness of what is right or wrong in regard to individual behavior. So tell us what you mean by this. How is it different from ethics? Because that's what we So is conscious awareness of ethics?
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I was having some issues with my connection.
I just have two questions here that are open.
Let me sort out my technical things. I think there's a problem with my laptop now.
Okay. You are giving me challenges of running by.
Okay, I'm okay now. Am I okay now?
You are okay? Yes, you are okay.
Yes. So, conscious is that natural awareness of what is right or wrong in regard to your individual behavior.
Mhm.
Although sometimes it ends up being affected by the society in which you are brought up in, or the maybe your beliefs later on, but it is something you're born with, your conscious, which tells you that this is right, or naturally, which is right or wrong. That's what I was trying to mean.
Something that tells you.
You're not that inside of you, that naturally inside you, where you can feel that this is right or wrong. That is that is what I meant by conscious. Also, there are some people who are typed in the chat. I don't
Yes,
know whether you had seen them,
the chat
because
in
the board was
notes.
kind of problematic, so people had typed in the chat.
Okay.
Mm.
Let me check the chat. Let me check the chat first. With the chats here. It is the inner feeling within a human being about what they intend to do now or later. Very good. Awareness of what is right or wrong in regard to individual behavior. Then, conscience is what guides a person on what is right or wrong. I think all of you are in one way or the other right. And some people actually call it the inner voice. The inner voice, something that is in you that tells you to do this or not do it. And it could be a correct one or it could be a wrong one, but we shall see it later on. Now, that conscience can be understood as an act. And when we look at it as an act, it is the ability of that faculty that distinguishes whether one's actions are right or wrong. So at a moment when you can make that distinction, so that is not passive, it is an active part that will tell you that this action is right or it is wrong. It could be understood as a state. And as a state, it is when you conform to what your sense of right and conduct is telling you. When you conform, let's say, my conscience tells me this and you conform with it. So you are in a state of being conscious of what is happening or what is happening within you. It could be understood as an object. That inner sense, as some actually all of us were looking at it as an object, that inner sense in what is right and wrong in one's conduct or motive, impelling you to act accordingly. So then it becomes that object that impels you and pushes you to go and act. So it should be seen as an intellect practical judgment. It is something that happens within our intellect, within our if I say the word mind, for me it looks as if I am even diluting what it is, but something that is within our conscience. No, I'm using the same word. Something that is within ourselves that makes us act or makes us look at something that is good, then I go and do it. It is good, I go and avoid it. I mean, I leave the good and I do the bad. Something that tells me and clearly shows it to me that is good, go and do it. Or it is good, don't do it. Or it is evil, go and avoid it, or it is evil, go and do it. So I don't think I'm confusing anyone. But that practical part of our judgment that we have, that will make things clear to your face, to your heart, to yourself, that is a right thing, go and do it. Or that is the right thing, don't do it. Go do a bad, the other one. This is evil, don't do it. This is evil, go and do it. That practical part of our intellect is what we would call the conscience. So, what morality imparts on person and society is that it has a fair play between the harmony between them. So, for us individuals, whenever we stand, we always stand at that polar line, and in between the polars, there is a judgment that you have to make, whether to follow a right judgment or a wrong judgment. So, and if you have it, if you follow your conscience, it makes good people. It makes people to become good because you follow the conscience, you do always what is right, and also makes a good society. So it again plays into what we need, why we study ethics, to try to see whether we can make a good society, to become good people, and also build a good society. So for those who are religious, it keeps you in proper relationship with the Creator. I'm talking about Christians, I'm talking about Muslims, I'm talking about Jews, I'm talking about whoever, because every religion has some kind of ethical and moral code. So meaning that if you have a good conscience, a formed good conscience, you become a good person. And if everybody follows that good conscience, you make a good society, you become into good relationship with God. And morality does this in two ways. The one of them is, it is through the cognitive, that is through the conscience. I don't know whether I should go into the process. Another one is affective. Cognitive, it is the process that goes within our head. Sometimes very instant. You cannot even tell the fractions of the seconds into which it works. Very instant. And it makes you vision something the way it is, either as good or as bad. And another one, it is through socialization, social environment into which we are. Like now, when we talk about Africa, we are talking about Uganda, we are talking about Kenya, we are talking about Tanzania, we are talking about Nigeria. So our society has gone into some other ways into which corruption, stealing is seen as a good. Okay, we shall continue seeing that later. So the cognitive one, the first one, is a mental process of perception that helps us to know, that helps us to be aware, and also forms our judgment. So that mental process, which we call the intellect, the intellectual part of it, helps us to discover, to know. And then if you know, then you become aware of what you are supposed to do or not to do. A process of thought leading to knowing. It includes reasoning, perception, and judgment, deals with the logic as opposed to affective, which works with emotions. So we shall see that is this one goes into logic, a lot of reasoning, and the other one goes into emotions. I will explain this a little bit faster. If you don't understand it later on, you will ask me. So there is a cognitive process which you see. There are three things that we think about. It is to see, to judge, and to act. To see something, or to now seeing, let me call it a sense. Sense something, judge it, and act on it. So when you use your senses, you make a moral evaluation. You evaluate with those sensory parts of yours. It could be seeing, it could be smelling, it could be whatever. You make a moral evaluation, and that sense and moral evaluation will make what you see as a fact becomes factual. It's a concern for meaning. Then you as an agent, you approve it or you disapprove it. Then this leads you into what we call the moral judgment. So to judge, so you evaluate. Then if you approve or disapprove, you are already entering into moral judgment. So you are already entering into judge. And the judging or moral judgment leads you to perceive whether this is a moral event. Is it something that I must do as a moral person? Then action, you already make a decision, a moral decision. And that decision is already informed by that process of cognition. So conscience may be correct or erroneous. A correct conscience judges what is good as good and what is evil as evil. And a correct action, a good action, acts on what is good and acts on it as good. And what is evil acts on it as an evil. We also have an erroneous conscience, which judges what is evil as good or what is good as evil, the opposite. So a correct one, good is good, evil is evil. The one that is in error, evil is taken as good, and what is good is taken as evil. So conscience may be certain or doubtful. So sometimes we ask ourselves, so we judge the opposite as being either certain, may be true or may not be true. That's so. But if your judgment judges the opposite as in fact, I think I made a mistake here. A certain conscience is the one that judges what is right and takes it as right in fact. What is true takes it as true in fact. And the doubtful one is the one that hesitates to make that judgment. There are some misgivings, maybe the opposite is right. I'll change this later on. I think I made a mistake. There are some misgivings along the way where you start hesitating. So you see the first one, we were certain, and you stand by that certainty. It is a fact, I must do it. And the doubtful one is when we hesitate to make a judgment with misgiving that the opposite may be true. So, what influences conscience is the two things, but I will not go much into them: caring principle and the principle. This is complicating issues, but you can learn it on your own. There is subjective part and the objective part. The subjective part are things that are closer to us, and the objective one is the larger society. The one that is closer to us is the family, where we learn to live, because we live in a family. The family needs us to live and form your conscience. Family people, those who have children, if you want to get children that are properly glued to morality, you become closer to them and make them experience that goodness, and that imparts on the way they will always form their conscience. Then there is that larger part, which is society, that is led by either the laws or the principles or whatever. This can also help society to come closer to this. I can give an example. We give an example for family, of course, that is easier to understand, which is subjective, that in a family, you look for a way in which the peers, the people you live with into that family, can shape the character of your children. When you are looking for a school for your children, you don't simply take the child anywhere. You first look, how does that school impact on the children? Is it a very bad school? Do the peers, do the teachers help the child to grow? And then you follow that, you know that they will form the conscience of your child to a certain level. And the objective one is a larger society. So people who have been going to Rwanda, for example, they will tell you that Rwandese cannot simply drop anything anywhere. Society has put in place systems and principles that guide a person. It started on the streets, it started on the roads, but now even in two families, people have started becoming very clean. So the larger society can also impact on the conscience of somebody. So you have a mess in the home, and you say, this is not right, and you come and change it. So that's why I'm saying that there are two things that help us. One is caring, and caring as put into the peers, into the family, and which is subjective. And the principles, I put it into the larger society. So a larger society that really seriously helps us to build our conscience and build our society and build our society. Then this I leave because it does not add much value to our class now. I want to go into a case. This you can read by yourselves, and if you don't find it necessary, you let me know, but some of these I'll come back to them. I'm looking for a story so that we can discuss together. I'm looking for this story first, then we shall go back. Can I get somebody to read for us this story? It's a case. We get a lady, the lady might read it even better and help us understand it far better. A lady in the class, can you read for us this case?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, let me go back to it. I was trying to check. Okay, please, can you read?
The story is about Haynes Steals the Drug. That's the title. And it is reading as follows: that in Europe, a woman was near death from a special kind of cancer. There was one drug that the doctors thought might save her. It was a form of radium that a druggist in the same town had recently discovered. The drug was expensive to make, but the druggist was charging 10 times what the drug cost him to make. He paid £200 for the radium. I don't know whether these are dollars. Now, dollars. He paid $200 for the radium and charged $2,000 for a small dose of the drug. The sick woman's husband, Haynes, went to everyone he knew to borrow the money, but she could only get together about $1,000, which is half of what it cost. He told the druggist that his wife was dying and asked him to sell it cheaper or let him pay later. But the druggist said, "No, I discovered the drug and I'm going to make money from it." So Haynes got desperate and broke into the man's store to steal the drug for his wife. Should the husband have done that?
That is the question to all of us who have written this story. So this gentleman in Europe who had gotten or has made a drug by buying radium at $200, made a drug charged $2,000. Then a man in the village gets to know that there is a drug here and he has a wife who is sick. He goes to buy, he's charged $2,000. He goes around, he can only make $1,000, which is half of the cost. He goes to the man, "Please give me, I will pay later." The man said, "No, I want to make money out of it." And the man desperately goes and breaks into the store. The question is, should the husband have done that, broken the store and stolen the drug? And the question is to everyone. Open discussion. It's open discussion, gentlemen. Somebody has raised their hand. Yes.
Oh, you're asking that should the man have stolen the drug?
Yes.
Morally, he's justified to steal the drug. So the issue would just be for legality, which is sometimes what is legal is not necessarily moral, or what is moral is not necessarily legal. So the man is
Is
justified.
it moral to steal, Yusuf? Tell us. Is it moral to steal?
Stealing is it is just a matter of perspective, I should say.
Oh my God.
In the circumstances, because if they had not given us the background to the stealing, I would maybe not sympathize with the man. But the way the man, even me, if I was put in his shoes, I would do the same thing. So
And for stealing, morally wouldn't have made any problem.
yeah, I would sleep very comfortably at night, knowing that my conscience is clear.
Okay. That
Yes.
is Yusuf. Let's hear from another person. Another one. Yes, Ben. Ben, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. I think he was right to steal the drug because from his conscience and analysis, he weighed the options of one, saving his life, and two, the implication is of stealing. So the conscience, he used this conscience to judge that now if I steal the drug, I would save my life. If I don't, I would save my wife's life. If I don't steal the drug, the wife will die. But if I steal, I will save and suffer the consequences, which according to his conscience, those consequences could not lead to death. So I think he was right in the circumstances. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, so you would have stolen the drug as well.
Not me,
And he was
Doctor.
right to have stolen. But you would encourage him to steal the drug.
Ben, stop.
As a lawyer, I would encourage him.
What is the difference? Encouraging and doing it yourself.
It is like you the Reverend Fathers, you encourage us to do what you say, but not what you do.
Darunji. Darunji. Yeah.
This is a story of our day-to-day lives that we live. Reminds me of the COVID incident where the hospitals overcharged us money. But going back to the question, was the man right to steal? And without giving too much thought to this, I think he was right, because people like these ones who escalate, who raise prices in times of need, at times deserve such a thing. Would I have stolen if it was me? If I failed to raise the money he wanted, honestly, I would steal. Just like he endeavored to raise money and he could not get all the money. My wife is on the deathbed, almost dying. I stay there watching. Let me steal and then we shall sort ourselves later. So I think it was okay. It was okay for him to steal at that time.
Okay.
Given the fact that he had been cheated. If he hadn't been cheated, it would have been wrong for him to have stolen.
How was he cheated? Because the man in a capitalist society, the man had created his own medicine, and he was making money out of it.
I give someone else chance to talk.
Namirembe. Yes, Hafsa.
Thank you, Doctor. I think the man had good morals, because in the beginning we note that he tried to ask for a favor, which was not granted. And I think that it was not right for him to steal, but it was necessary given the circumstances that she said it was necessary, so that he saves her life and then sorts out the other issues thereafter.
Let me go back to Yusuf. Yusuf, for you, your thought still was morally for him to steal. And it was right for him to steal. And the conscience remains clear,
Yes,
because
that's
he
what-
cannot even go for a painting in any way.
Exactly.
So supposing we allowed everybody who wants things from somebody to go and steal and do whatever, what would happen to society?
And it's not that. Unfortunately, I wish you had not given us any background to his act. Then maybe that's why you would bring in that argument. Supposing we allow everyone to steal. No, for him, his circumstances were very different. He wasn't stealing maybe to just buy food or stealing to. He was stealing to save someone's life. And if anyone, if given the ability that to steal even 1 second for someone you love, or to have an extra time to stay around in this world, they would do it. So the man was justified in that circumstances.
But Yusuf, the world is full of needs. The world is full of
No,
needs.
this is something special. This is life or death, a life or death
Today
situation.
is health. Tomorrow is tuition fees for your child. The other date is the other thing. The other thing. The other thing. So if we allowed every need to be done this way, what would happen to our society?
And also, if you're forgetting the other side where the man was overcharging the price, and even given that the $1,000 was even enough to cover the cost, the guy still refused. There was also a case of greed on the other side, which is also not what, in terms of conscience, you would say that it is not correct. So two wrongs don't make a right. That's how they say.
Let's go to Barunji. Barunji, you gave a very nice example, but you never read on it. You talked about the hospitals and COVID. The case, doctor, the case happened here. Somebody goes to hospital, he goes and actually even dies afterwards, and then they hold the body to pay 200 million. And we know that in some hospitals, of course, when we're having those kind of questions, we're hearing that in Lacho Hospital, the same treatment that people were charging 100 million, whatever was costing 50,000. So would it have been right for everybody to go into that hospital, start stealing the drugs that is there, because life is better than and higher than good things or other things or whatever we're talking about? I'm coming back to Barunji.
I didn't pick the last statements you said. They had the bigger, had much of what you had
Yes,
said.
I'm saying
The
that
last
would
part.
it be right? Would it be right that in case we have those other issues, that some hospital, somebody has put in some money, infrastructure, also has needs, by the way. They also have maybe children to feed, they have families to fend for, they also have. So would it be right that a society would open society to go and steal that drug from that hospital and use it the way they wanted because it's a question of life?
You're putting me to the wall. But at the current time, since anyway, it will not be right, but the fact that there was an overcharge, at times we do things that cause people to do wrong things without knowing. I think this was a situation. If the price maybe was made average and maybe this person had increased supply, he could have solved many problems. I'm sure if it had happened someone else also, he would also resort to stealing because there was no way out. Some of the actions we do preempt people to do the things they do. So it's hard really to put a blame on this person, in my own opinion. It wasn't right, but I think there was a cause effect there that pushed him to do what he did.
I hope you are listening to each other, because afterwards I want you to question each other, not only me questioning, but I also want you to question each other. I want to question Ben. Ben, for him to say that if he would have studied that medicine, he would even sleep soundly without any remorse of doing any bad thing. So if you have a neighbor in your village or at home, and you happen to be keeping like sheep, or let me talk about things that are eaten more in Uganda. You have chicken, and your neighbors are the poor people, they don't have chicken. Today, you have some chicken and some big one that is walking around. Your neighbor has spent a whole year without eating chicken. And perhaps today you are eating 3 chicken with your family. It is even much than what you need. And your neighbor comes and steals one of the big cocks you have been fattening and eats it. Would you again sleep soundly when your neighbor has stolen and eaten your chicken?
Thank you, Doctor. Actually, I've even talked about the chicken is one of my delicacies. But relating to the issue at hand, when somebody has eaten my my chicken, relating to relating to what to the situation of the other sick the other person who was told in the hospital. I would accept, but in my acceptance, agree with that man. I said he should be ready for the implication is that what he was doing was wrong, but in an attempt to solve a problem, but should be ready for the implications for solving now this other problem he has created. So of course it is wrong, but in the circumstances he was solving a problem but creating another problem. But of the two, which problem is heavier to address given the circumstances? So that is my argument. Whereas somebody can go ahead and eat my chicken, that person, of course, I will feel bad, but he has opened another avenue, another case for him to add to sort out. So that is how I can look at it, Doctor.
Namirembe, I go to you also. Have you ever been having things that your closest neighbor or closest friend does not have, and perhaps the person wants that thing also to own it or have it? I believe the answer could be yes. Am I right?
Yes, doctor.
Yes. So you see, you have something, a neighbor also wants it, and you also hold on it. So if you are very sympathetic for this gentleman to cure his wife, why would you, in your own circumstances, keep hold to your property and not give it away? and allow this man to go and steal some other person's property?
Doctor, the condition that we saw earlier,
Mm.
no, the act we saw earlier was conditional. And the conditions that we identified were a matter of life and death.
Mm.
So for me, my thinking is that we have so many problems, but there are problems that are bigger than others. And where there is death, I think we can't compare it to any other problem at hand. So if it is my neighbor, unless it's also the same case, maybe I can listen to them and accept what they have done. But if it is just them admiring to have it when they can actually be there without it, then I don't find reason why they should steal.
Yeah, but my question again would be, would this medicine really remove death from this wife forever? It's also a temporal measure.
I think the assumption that we were making there, or the assumption that I was making there, was that this gentleman got to know about the drug and the drug could cure the disease. So if he went to steal, maybe the patient would become very fine. I think there's an assumption we were making there.
Can you?
This is more, I'm being rhetoric. As a historian, having learned what happened in France, the French Revolution, Marie, when the crowd, the masses told them we don't have money for bread, and she commented they buy cake. What resulted after that wasn't a good thing. I think it's just society. Society expects fairness. If there is something that's supposed to be given maybe at a relatively free price or fair enough for me to have, and you increase the price, there's just that element in us that has to react to such some choices. A drug is there, I'm having someone dying, and all you're telling me is raise more money. There's an element in me that says I can even do more than you think I can. In this case, the man thought of stealing in the French Revolution. Hers was to bring her down. So for each and every action we do, we need to bear, is it fair enough? If I'm charging more than what, if I'm charging more than what my item costs, am I being fair enough? If I pass that mark, then whatever reaction I get from the population or from anybody, really I should not stand and think I'll have it easy. That's my own submission.
Yeah, Ben is saying that dying tomorrow is better than dying today. Can you ask yourselves, can we, without my questions, can we talk about this case can we talk about it as persons without my questioning and whatever? What do you take out of this kind of, out of this situation in ethical terms and in moral terms and in societal terms and perhaps legal terms? Ben told us that he's already a lawyer. So how do you talk about this? Can we have that discussion in a legal way and see where the culpabilities is, who is supposed to be in prison, for example, the one who overcharged or the one who stole? But we are also acting within a capitalistic society. Talk to each other.
Doctor, I'm not a lawyer, but I was putting myself in that shoe of counsel. But in that circumstance, in legal terms, of course, the person who stole will face the law. He has to pay for his actions. But morally, in society, the person, we as a society, we believe that we need to help those who are in need, and especially if we are if we are getting even the what we have invested, we need to have that conscience for others, of feeding better for others by not overcharging. So as a society, as people in the society, we have to look at others in the society with that helping hand. So morally, the sale of the drug was really not acting well. But in a capitalistic world, he was right. He was right to overcharge that uh, because he is looking at maximizing profits. For now, I can stop there.
Any other? Okay, we can continue and I go backwards. This story is not my story. It was written by another person. Let me first introduce him, then we can go into scanning it a little bit further to see how we develop morally. So the person who introduced it is called Lawrence Kohlberg, who lived between 1927 to 1987. That's 60 years, something like that. So, and he was an outstanding example of research into a tradition of somebody we call Piaget. I will not go into him. And he focused majorly into moral development and has proposed the stage theory of moral thinking, which goes beyond what this gentleman Piaget had. Piaget is an Australian psychologist who tried to study moral development and studied his own children. And he was documenting the stages into which they were developing, they could answer some moral questions. And he developed a certain system. So, but we are not going too much of Piaget. Let's go into Kohlberg. So Kohlberg, who was born in 1927, grew up in Bronx Hill, New York, and attended an Endeavor Academy in Massachusetts, a private high school for bright and usually wealthy students. And this background is very important for us to know. So he did not go immediately to college, to university, even though he was wealthy. So they had the money, they could pay tuition for whatever case, but he did not go to university immediately. So he chose to become a sailor. He went to ship, he became a sailor. And after World War II, he helped to smuggle Jews through the British blockade of Palestine into the Middle East. So from New York, from USA, he went to Palestine and he started to smuggle Jews from the British blockade of Palestine and take them into Israel. So he was made a second engineer on an old freighter, an old ship, carrying refugees from parts of Europe to Israel. So he started getting the Jewish refugees who were in Europe and was taking them to Israel passing through the British blockade that stopped the movement of the refugees. After this, in 1948, that was remember the United Nations was created around that time. He enrolled at the University of Chicago, where he scored so high on admission test. So he did like a GAT that you do, and scored so high that he had to take only a few courses to earn a bachelor's degree. So because of the brilliancy, he was given a leeway. He took few courses and he got a bachelor's. This, he did it in 1 year. So a bachelor of 3 years, he did it in 1 year. He stayed at Chicago for graduate work in psychology. So he went to study bachelor's in psychology. at first thinking he would become a clinical psychologist. So he thought he would become like this psychologist we train in at Makerere and Butabika. You also know we have a psychology at mental psychology at Umu, but that is social psychology, not clinical psychology. Social psychology is the one that we use to counsel people, but clinical psychology, even they provide some medicine, medication. However, he soon became interested in that Piaget person we talked about, and began interviewing children and addressing some moral issues. So how do we develop morality? The result was his doctoral dissertation and his first discovery of what he called the new stage theory, which we are going to go through today. So Kohlberg, as an informal and unassuming man, who also is a true scholar, he has thought long and deeply about a wide range of issues in both psychology and philosophy, and has done much to help others appreciate the wisdom of many of the old psychologists, such as Rousseau. If you are a teacher, you could have met them, Dewey and James Bacon. So Kohlberg taught at the University of Chicago from 1962 to 1968, and since 1968, he had been at the University of Harvard. So very powerful universities. In 1973, he developed a tropical disease, and while hospitalized in 1987, he was reported missing on January 17th. Tropical disease could have been malaria, and I don't know what it was, but he developed a tropical disease, which they don't explain, but in my case, I thought that could have been cerebral malaria. So his body was later recovered from a MASH. However, the exact date of his death remains unknown. Rumors is that he could have committed suicide. So that's a rumor. So for his doctoral research, Kohlberg studied differences in children reasoning about moral dilemmas. So the case that I've given is a case that used to give out, that was his case that used to give out for people, children and old people to answer a moral dilemma. So the case definitely gives a serious moral dilemma. So he made a hypothesis that moral difficulties motivated their development through a fixed sequence of increasing flexible kinds of moral reasoning. So he thinks that some difficulties in society and even the stages and areas where we develop. So we have some kind of moral reasoning that we go through. He also helped to clarify the general cognitive development view of age-related changes. So we said that somebody actually, when we were looking at morality, at conscience, one of you said that yes, an older person will develop, will reason differently. And in response, I said, yes, even Paul in the New Testament had said that when he was a child, he used to reason as a child. As a child drinks milk when he's still a child, and when you grow older, you can eat very hard foods the way he thought that this thing is. That cognitive moral development is also age-related. Therefore, thereafter, Kohlberg became a leader in what we call moral education. Kohlberg was a psychologist who applied developmental approach and studied the analysis of moral reasoning in many ways. He distinguishes morality from a convention. This one I will try to go into it briefly. Morality from convention. Convention, remember when we're studying what is ethics and what is not ethics, what is morality and what is morality, we said there are things that are not ethics as such. For example, if the Bagada say, when you are a woman is greeting a man, you must kneel down, or you must somehow kneel, greet while kneeling. That is not morality. That is a convention. That's a convention. Because you hurt nobody seriously when you don't kneel down. And we have seen that people elsewhere greet without kneeling, and it's a convention that happens. The Baganda will kneel down, the Bachiga will embrace, for example. And that's all greeting. So he's trying to differentiate what is really moral and what is a convention. Allow me to close my windows and door because some mosquitoes are coming in.
The doctor is fearing to get tropical disease.
I'm fearing to get a tropical disease. Yes. So the conventions, they are more of etiquette, and etiquette does really not mean much into our ethics. So there are things that we find that they are very serious, that are moral, attached to the core. If you don't do this, you become a very bad person. And so it helps us to understand that. So for him, social convention in contrast action, the moral actions are so deep. It's an action within the moral domain, such as unprovoked hitting of somebody, intrinsic. So it has that intrinsic fact of harm. You harm somebody, you harm something, you harm the welfare of a person, you even harm yourself. Then that intrinsic part of it occurs regardless of the nature of social rules that may or may not be in place regarding the action. Because of this, the core features of moral cognition are centered around the consideration that affects which actions have upon the well-being of a person. Morality is structured by a concept of harm, welfare, and fairness. So harm, welfare, fairness, they, according to him, define what morality is. So the right thing is the one that does not harm me, does not harm another person, that does not harm anyone, the welfare of society, of myself and others, and how to be fair, to give people what concerns them. In contrast, actions that are a matter of social conventions have no intrinsic personal consequences. For example, there is nothing intrinsic to the form of address we employ that make calling a college teacher a professor. So, for example, if you address me as Max, or as professor, or as Reverend Father, or as Mr., it does not make any harm to me. There is no harm, there is no fair. So it is just a convention that we have just taken, that people like to be addressed. And sometimes even these social conventions can hurt somebody we don't understand, in a way we don't understand. Simply using, these are just given names. So what makes one form of address better than the other is the existence of the socially agreed upon rules. That means that you can find that in one society we can address people like this, and another place you don't address them, but you are addressing, there's no harm that you are causing that is very intrinsic, that destroys the inner personality, the inner part of a human person. So these conventions, while arbitrary in the sense that they have no intrinsic status, are nonetheless important to the smooth functioning of any group of any society. So we are not saying that conventions like greeting while kneeling down, providing food when you are standing or facing the other side, we are not saying that those are useless. No, they are very good because they also form, they make the society function very well and move smoothly, but they are not part of morality. So conventions provide a way for members of the group to coordinate their social exchanges through a set of agreed upon and predictable modes of conduct. So, meaning that when we talk about things that we need to work on as a in a policy, at home, at work, at university, and elsewhere, things that do seriously harm to individuals, to the environment, to society, to a company, to a nation, to whatever, they do harm. According to him, those are on the moral domain that we must take seriously, and things that are on convention, when they are singing the national anthem for the military to put up their arm, and those who don't have the caps don't do that. It does not hurt anybody, but it helps society to move in a smooth way. Concept of convention then are structured by the understanding of our social organization.
But doctor, where do you put things like homosexuality?
Homosexuality. You are taking me to a discussion that I'm discussing right now. The university recently passed a policy on gender inclusion, gender in everything. And we have some members who are saying, we don't talk about male and female. They are no longer categories that are to be talked about in our current times, because there are people who do not think that they are male or female. There are some others. And people want us to believe in those kind of things. I don't know your take, but for me, I really follow the Bible strictly. God created male and female. He never created the other part. So, homosexuality, is it a harm? Yeah, we also know that people can produce albinos. People can produce people who are lame. They are gifted the other way. So if we could take albinos in a gender, are they to be included into the act of socialization, that you make a person who was not an albino an albino? Who was asking that question, by the way, because I was not putting on because I have found out that even homosexuality is sometimes it is socialized. The studies about homosexuality in Uganda, especially schools, in the recent years, is discovered that it came from socialization from rugby. Socialization. So, is homosexuality also an intrinsic part that we must recognize? I have my own feeling, and I say no. But it is a question of debate. We have been debating it also on our staff emails. And some people want us to take it that we can allow a man to marry another man, a woman to marry another woman. I don't take that. I don't take that reasoning myself. I don't know what you wanted to say anyway, but that's my area.
Doctor, what I wanted to relate it in terms of morality, whether because I hear many people talk about homosexuality and what, but as you said, especially for you, for your Reverend Father, that is not you believe in the Bible, that is you can't accept that. But in terms of morality,
it is not because I'm a priest, by the way. It is because I'm a human.
Of course, with even that background. but okay, doctor, yes, it is true you are human, but in terms of morality, how do you take homosexuality? Is it immoral or the other social part of the social what, the social part of it.
Can we give it to the class to talk about also, to see what
Hope
Please,
they
members.
don't fear.
members, what is fear, what is to be feared, they are on your own beliefs.
Doctor, can I say something?
Eh? Yes, Namaganda. What's the name again? May not make a mistake.
Doctor, I think it's illegal. I think people are generally male or female. You know, this thing of homosexuality, people just believe they tend to create a belief within themselves, but when in actual sense, they were created as either female or male. So I also second your argument, Doctor, and I completely don't believe in it. And I say that it is illegal and it is something that we shouldn't really accept in our society, because those are beliefs from other societies which are not really good.
Mm. Do we have any other person saying something contrary? So you allow me to skip this part of excerpt from the interview that he had with younger children. So, but maybe I can go through it. So he made some interviews to a 4-year-old girl on her perception of the transgression in her preschool. The 4-year-old child was in school, and then he tried to ask her questions to judge her morality. So there was a fight, perhaps in a school, and he asks, "Did you see what happened?" The girl says, "Yes. They were playing and John hit him too hard." Is that something that you are supposed to do or not supposed to do? Said, not so hard to hurt. You can beat, but not so hard. Is there a rule about that? Yes. What is the rule? You are not supposed to hit hard. What if there was no rule about hitting hard? Would it be right for you to do that then? No, why not? Because he could not get hurt and start to cry. So you can read these ones. They will lead you to see how he came to see how we develop conventional and non-conventional ones. The conventional one, did you see what happened? Yes, they were noisy. Is that something that we're supposed to do or not to do? No, not to do. Is that a rule about that? Yes, we have to be quiet. What if there were no rule? Would it be right to do that? No, yes. Why? Because there's no rule. So on conventional things, on hurting, the child will see that hurting is a harm. At the age of 4, the child will see that pricking is a harm that you cannot do. But keeping quiet is a convention that you can still juggle around with. I want to skip to the stages. What he calls the method. He builds what he calls the 6-stage method, the 6th stage of moral development. And there is level 1, level 2, and level 3, which each level having 2 stages. In level 1, which he calls the pre-conventional, before the child comes to the conventions, the child is always obedient, follows the morality of obeying and fearing punishment. You obey and fear being punished. Stage 2, he calls it individual exchange. So it is to exchange something for the other. Then level 2, we shall explain it a little bit further. Level 2, he calls it conventional and morality, where somebody starts discovering a convention and also differentiates from morality. And there is stage 3, good interpersonal relationship. Stage 4, maintaining the social order. Level 3, which he calls the post-conventional morality. Stage 5, social contract and individual rights. Stage 6, universal principles. This is the case that we read through, and we will go into the stages. Level 1, pre-conventional. You will recall that when you have a child at home, I believe that some of you have, or you have grown, or you will have some children if you don't have. A child who is starting to talk, there is a way you teach and socialize that child. And that is by rewarding a child, or withdrawing a reward, or you punish a child. And children will always find themselves to be praised for the good thing, and they don't like to be reprimanded for bad things. So on stage 1, you find that there are some fixed rules which the child will always unquestionably obey. To the Hen's dilemma, the other dilemma that we read through, we are discussing. If, let's say, that we were given to children who are about 4, the 4-year-old might not understand very well. Let's say 12, 9, 10, 13. To the Hen's dilemma, the child says that Hen's was wrong to steal the drug because it is against the law. So the pre-convention is fearing the law and fearing punishment, or it is bad to steal. When asked to elaborate, the child usually responds in terms of the consequences involved, explaining that stealing is bad because you will get punished. When I was trying to provoke you into discussion, I was expecting to get somebody who will say, this person will end into jail. I think somebody near went into it, and they were saying that it might lead me into bad things. But if you speak about don't doing something wrong or something because you fear punishment or want to be praised, you know that you are reasoning on what Kohlberg would say, the stage 1 reasoning of obedience and punishment orientation, because you will get punished. I'm not sure that I'm making myself understandable, but through questioning and answer, I might even be more understandable. So although the vast majority of children oppose Hen's theft, it is still possible for a child to support the action and still employ stage 1 reasoning. Each child might say, Hens can steal because he asked first, and it is not like he stole something big. He won't get punished. The concern is with what authorities permit or punish. So you will discover that within our society, we do things because we do things that are right because nobody's looking at us, because there's no police that is around us, because my father or my mother is not looking at me. I could have done differently if there was no police, if my parents were not around, if the head teacher was not around, if so there is you are only governed by the fear of getting punished. So the concern is what authorities permit or punish. And we don't see this only in children. We also see it in older people. Even members of parliament, mind, people who start going into policies because they fear they can get reprimanded. I do believe that our policy makers at parliament level, most especially members of NRM, will pass a policy because they don't like a reprimand from their party, will join a reasoning and defend it wholly without even believing in it, because they might lose, they might get out of the favor. That is a reasoning of a child. That is a reasoning of somebody who has not gone to a level of proper reasoning way. So the proper reasoning of a stage 1 child, or stage 1, a child who is maybe around 6, 7, 8 years old, goes into somebody who is even 60, 40, 70 years of age. Fear, reprimand, or think of being rewarded. And you do a policy in that form that affects everyone. So the second one is what we call individual exchange. So there is not just one right view that is handed down by authorities. Different individuals have different viewpoints. Hence might think it is right to take the drug. The druggist would think no, because Hens wants to cure his wife, the druggist wants profit. So since everything is relative, each person is free to pursue his or her individual interests or her individual ends. So there are people who could reasonably say, so we have different interests. So if we have different interests, let each one pursue his or her own ends. So Hens must steal the drug if he wants his wife to live. But that it doesn't have to do if he wants to marry another one, somebody who could be better looking. That could be somebody who could think of that way. So that is another stage of child reasoning, a little bit higher than stage 1, because here we are talking about interests. Remember when we talked about relativism, ethical relativism, it has that issues. Hence might steal it because maybe they had children and he might need someone at home to look after them. But maybe he shouldn't have stolen, because they might put him into prison for more years than he could stand. So here, what is right for Hens then is what meets his own self-interest. Relativism. Ethical relativism. So that you pursue your own interests, and even if your interests collide with the interests of another person, you can continually. Can you allow me to make a call? I want to call a friend of mine. I am supposed to have given something, so I close a bit.
Doctor, it is okay. Why not to call now? No problem.
Sorry, members, and thank you for allowing me to make a call. So what I was saying here is that ethical relativism has a lot of issues. And so if we have ethical relativism that has a lot of issues, you simply allow it, then in the end, society will become anything. And as I said, again, this does not remain on child reasoning. We again find it even in people who are 30, 40, 50, 60 years of age. Like when we are talking about about corruption today. Maybe because it has become so endemic and as if it is the whatever. So people can easily say, if it is my my family is interested, it is an interest for my family, then I can go ahead and I do this and the other. So level 3, as well as stage 3 and level 2, good interpersonal relationships. At this stage, children who have by now usually entering their teens see morality more than a simple deal. So the first one, it was fear of punishment, getting rewards. The other one was relativism. But here, as children now start thinking through. They believe that people should live up to the expectation of the family and the community and behave in a good way. So the children now start thinking of a good society, of a good family. We don't simply work on fear for punishment, but you try to work for something that is larger than us. So we work on interpersonal relationships. So good behavior means having good motives and interpersonal feelings such as love, empathy, trust, concern for others, and whatever. So hence was right to steal the drug because he was a good man for wanting to save his wife. And his intentions were good, that of saving the life of someone he loves. So even if Heinz doesn't love his wife, he should steal the drug because no good husband should sit back and watch his wife die.
I think, Dr. there we were spot on.
You were spot on. Okay. So this is now a certain kind of level. But you know, as I said, there are people who don't even, policy makers, policy implementers, people who are on whatever level, they are even in schools teaching, whose thinking has not even gone to this. They think about themselves only. So stage number 2 will bring a lot of selfishness among people, self-interests. And that is the level where corruption is endemic, where people are becoming so selfish, and you don't think about the larger society. And when you go to stage 3, children who go to stage 3, and those who develop their morality on stage 3 will now start thinking a little bit beyond the self, beyond the family, to the society. So how do we develop a better society? So if Heinz's motives were good, the druggist motives were bad. The druggist stage 3 subject emphasized was selfish, greedy, and only interested in himself, no other life. Sometimes the respondents become so angry with the druggist that they say that he ought to be put even in jail. The concern here is good human relations. It puts me to question and maybe for discussion, especially for adults like us, and even those who hold positions, either I don't know how you where you work, but I believe that everybody has a certain position that influences one or the other person. Is it good that we build a society that is only based on selfish ends only, or we need to think about the good of the entire society? Why I'm talking about selfish ends only is that today, as I'm speaking, everybody speaks of what I get out of the other, of what I get out of this. We no longer consider what other members of our society are feeling. Think of what has been happening in the country until recently. They closed all the schools in the country, and the schools of the powerful are still running. They just closed them recently, and those are the schools of international schools. I even know colleagues who had children in Budo and these good schools. Because they have money, they had to take their children into international schools. Is it not selfish ends for leaders who are in our education system, who have a way of educating their children, either on television or I mean television, no, because I know there are children who are now even learning on Moodle more than us. They are online, they are doing whatever, they are being promoted. I know somebody who's doing an exam next week, being promoted, being there, for them they are learning. And you have other millions of children who are in the villages who cannot afford this. Is it not very bad that our people have remained on the stage of number one, fear of reprimand? One. Second one, being selfish, not thinking about the entire society, and we still have them in our community, in powers, in its positions of influence. Is it not a problem that Uganda is facing today? The question is for discussion. I don't know that I presented it very well, but I've made my point clear. Let us try to discuss around it.
Thank you, Doctor. From what you have presented so far in the question, briefly, I would say that all of people in positions of responsibility, especially in this country, should be at level 3, where they should be having feeding for the others.
We have not
And
yet gone
not
beyond,
only,
by the way. You might find that beyond is better. They continue, but continue.
yeah, of course. So from up to this level where we are presented, that's why I'm saying they should be at this level, such that they should have that feeling for the others, not to be thinking selfishly for themselves, because even others need to really be at where they are. Yes. Thank you, Doctor.
So what can be done? What can be done to change it or to lead our society from level 1 of thinking, level 2 of thinking to level 3, at least minimally? The question is to you, members.
Doctor, I think one of the things that needs to be done is mindset change, because I believe that these people in these positions of responsibilities have also gone through these processes from stage 1 to up to this level of 3. So I think one of the things is to change their mindset such that they stop being, I don't know how it can be done, but that such that they stop being selfish. It is a mindset issue, I think, which can help in stopping these people from being selfish. That's one of them, but there could be others. I want to allow others to come in, and I also I will come back again.
Somebody has just sent me a text message on WhatsApp. Let me share it with you. Let me share it with you. Perhaps we can. This is a message, a text that I get from. You are saying it? You are seeing the text?
Yes, we can see something from NTV Uganda.
NTV Uganda. So this is from Janet K7. I don't know that this is right, but perhaps should have said it. that I don't know of any example of God penalizing a government or a church for refusing to take care of children, because this is the responsibility of families. In light of what we are discussing, because this is a policy implementer, this is our leader. In light of what we are discussing, where would you put the reasoning of such a person on the ladders that we have seen in our development of ethical development?
But before that, what has she done to do what to address the issues of children as the Janet K?
Of course, for the stage 3 development, ethical development, it would be that this person should have looked at the well-being of the entire society and in the position of making the society good society. So meaning that the person reasoning that this one is still on certain other levels, which are below stage 3. Okay, let's continue. Maybe I might make treason, so I find myself into prison. Let me not commit treason. Maintain the social order, stage number 4. Stage 3 reasoning works best in a two-person's relationship with the family members or close friends, where one can make a real effort to know the other's feelings and needs and try to help. Stage 4 becomes more broadly concerned with society as a whole. Now the emphasis is obeying the laws, respecting authority, and performing one's duties so that the social order is maintained. Social order maintenance. In response to Haynes' story, many subjects say they understand that Haynes' motives were good, but they cannot condone the theft. What would happen if we all started breaking the laws whenever we felt we had a good reason? The result would be chaos. Society couldn't function. If everybody did as he wanted to do, set up his own beliefs as right or wrong, then there would be chaos. The only thing we have in civilization nowadays is some sort of legal structure which people are sort of bound to follow. Society needs centralizing framework. Because stage 4 subjects make moral decisions from the perspective of society as a whole, they think from the full-fledged member of society perspective. So, member of society perspective. So that whatever reasoning that you want to make, whatever dilemma you face, especially if you are a person in charge of a policy, the first thing to do is to think of being a member of society and being responsible for the entire society. And that is what they call member of society perspective. So if you reason from a member of society perspective, definitely you wouldn't give that statement that Janet has given. You would think that everybody in society will be punished by God for not having taken care of the children that we do have. So as members of a full-fledged member of society perspective, then it allows us. Wait a minute, members. Let me close first. Let me first talk. So, sorry, members. So everybody did. If we have to think first of we are members of a society. So if we are members of a society, each one is concerned for the other. So meaning that whatever goes wrong in our society, I am partly responsible because I never contributed positively to the ills of a society. Now that I could be,
But before, Doctor,
yeah,
in the circumstances of this, is it Haynes
yes,
who stole the medicine? We are looking at one, he did the wrong thing of stealing, but two, even this person, if this person who was selling the drug, wasn't he a member of the society? Did he put himself in that perspective as a member of the society?
yeah,
Because
that is very good.
if he didn't put himself in that perspective as a member of society, and this one, hence he also didn't put himself in that perspective as a member of society, what should be done in such a scenario?
You are going a stage ahead of me because now we are actually condemning the both of them. We are
Oh,
condemning.
sorry, Doctor. Today I'm a very fast learner. Thank you, Doctor.
We are condemning both of them, but also giving examples of our own society here. So if you are a member of a ministry of government, of Ministry of Education, for example, and you have seen what is happening with the girls being out of school or whatever, they are reporting a lot of pregnancies. They reported the other day a certain sad story where was it a girl of 12 or 13 giving birth to twins? Huh? Sometimes I don't even want to speak about it because it is very hard to chew, and other areas. So you think about it. So if you are a member who thinks about the good of society, you would definitely feel that the blame is on us all who would have taken part in preventing society falling that way. You even think about the larger future of these children. We are somehow losing a generation, some generation. So we are going back to where we were in the 60s, where the education was not perhaps considered by many people in our villages. So we continue because of stage 4 subjects. Because of stage 4, subjects make moral decisions from the perspective of society as a whole. They think from a full-fledged member of society perspective. So superficially, stage 1 and stage 4 give nearly the same response. It breaks the law. Stage 4 children say it's wrong to steal, it's against the law, but they cannot elaborate any further except to say that stealing can get a person into jail. Stage 4 respondents, in contrast, have a conception of the functioning of laws of society as a whole. Conception which far exceeds the grasp of the child's younger age. So maybe I forgot to put another slide here, which we would say that on this stage, the condemnation is on both Haynes and the druggist, because you must look at the way the society transforms, the way society runs, the way society moves. And I believe that if we had policymakers at least to have gone to this level of reasoning, their average reasoning is on this level, definitely we would be having another Uganda. If you had leaders whose reasoning is relatively on this level, we would be having another Uganda. If we had a government that thinks on this level, today we wouldn't be speaking about Mo's project, I don't know whose project, or whatever project, we would be speaking about a Ugandan project. A Ugandan project that thinks about the development of the entire society, the conception of what is good, the conception of where everybody thrives, and where people move freely. But again, there's another step, another level that is similar to this. And this is the post-conventional morality, where they talk about the social contract and individual rights. At stage 4, people want to keep society functioning. However, a smooth functioning society is not necessarily a good one. A totalitarian society might be well organized, but it is hardly the moral ideal. Think about China. Well organized. Northern Korea, well organized, but is it an ideal society that people must live in? Northern Korea. At stage 5, people begin to ask, what makes a good society? So, and actually, that is where policy begins from. That's where parliamentarianism begins from. What makes a good society? What do we need to institute a good society? What is needed to start a smooth running society? How can we move forward to make a good society? They begin to think about society in a very theoretical way, stepping back from their own society and considering the right and the values that the society ought to uphold. They then evaluate existing societies in terms of their prior considerations. So you don't start talking about society about what you have seen, but you also project into the future what society could be, what better society could it be. So when we are making a policy, there's a policy that I normally talk about, the Public Order Management Act that people put forward. It was futuristic, but selfish futuristic. So this one will try to think about a good society in the future that does not think about me, but thinks about the good of the entire society in a way. So stage 5 respondents basically believe that a good society is best conceived as a social contract into which people freely enter to work toward the benefit of all. And what today we call the welfare societies of Europe. Welfare society of Europe, we are talking about Belgium, we are talking about Netherlands, we are talking about France, and talk about others that give really serious, they take care of everyone. They made the policies based on this. How can we make a society where everybody is included and lives, and who is a member of that society? How can we make a society into which the person who is with us finds life in that society? Different from a capitalistic society, the capitalistic society of America thinks about the bourgeois, about those who have the Trump way of reasoning. Let me call them the Republicans. They think about those who will have and exclude others, but the welfare society will always look at a society that they have not even lived. They try to conjure a society that they have not reached into, but they try to create it. And how do we go towards that society? And good parliamentarianism, good policy making, we must always think about such. How do I create a society that I have not even experienced? Or maybe you have seen it being done somewhere and you want it here. How can it work on our side? And this is stage 5 way of reasoning. They recognize that different social groups within a society will have different values, but believe that all rational people will agree on 2 points. The first one, they would all want certain basic rights, such as liberty and life to be protected. They would all want basic rights, they want liberty, and they want that these things should be protected. Not only my liberty, not only my property, not only my rights or my life, but the life of everyone. Second, they would want some democratic procedures for changing unfair laws and improving society. So they will always look at society the way it is, scan it, and after scanning it, you look for a way of getting out of the bad way into the good society. How do I improve my society? How do we improve what we have? How do we live a society that makes us a better society to live in? How do we create a society that is enviable for everyone. In response, Twins Dilemma Stage 5 makes it clear that breaking laws is not favored. Laws are the social contracts that we agree to uphold until we can change them by democratic means. Nevertheless, the wife's rights to live is a moral right that must be protected. That Stage 5 sometimes defends his safety in stronger language. It is the husband's duty to save his life, his wife. The fact that her life is in danger transcends every other standard you might use to judge his action. Life is more important than property. From a moral standpoint, hence should save the life of even a stranger, since, to be consistent, the value of life means any life. And I go back to what Barunji gave us on COVID and hospitals. Those who put property over and above life. I want to talk about those people who are in charge of our medicine, of our ministry of health, of our hospitals. Those who, instead of going to get drugs or a certain instrument that can save life, somebody steals it, goes to court to put up a house, and millions of people are dying of malaria, are dying of terrible diseases. They have kept money into their accounts. They can go to India, they can go elsewhere to receive it. So when you put them into this, you find that they become sinners at Stage 5 reasoning. They become sinners. They become criminals at this stage of reasoning. So that's why we say that they defend hence self in strong terms. They defend it in strong terms because it's saving life. The way we would defend it strongly, the way we condemn those hospitals strongly, because they put property over and above life. Or you put a position over and above the well-being of this village girl, this village boy, who has not had a chance, whose chance you have killed, who would perhaps tomorrow become a lawyer, become somebody useful to society, but you have destroyed the entire education of this person. We have a secondary school in my village. The other day when we were asking, we found that about 7 girls in that secondary school have already been married off. At the primary school, 3 of them have already been married. So this is a society that does not think of the plight of these others. And I believe that by becoming policymakers, ethical policymakers, ethical policy evaluators, ethical policy researchers, then our better thinking and our moral thinking is to think about the larger society from the point of view where life is more important than property or than positions. Whether a judge should punish, hence, usually the moral and legal standpoint is coincide. Moral and legal coincide. The judge should weigh the moral standpoint more heavily, but preserve the legal law in punishing, hence, lightly. Morality and rights take the priority over the particular laws. Questions? Because I think I've been very, very heavy also. I continue. Kohlberg hello?
I think you can continue, sir.
Kohlberg insists, however, that we do not judge people to be Stage 5 merely from their verbal labels. So we don't, because we have talked so harshly, that have emotionally or bring sensational things. So we need to look at their social perspective and mode of reasoning. A stage 4-2 subject frequently talk about the rights to life. But for them, this right is legitimized by the authority of their social and religious groups. Presumably, if their group would value property over life, they would too. But stage 5 in contrast, people make more of independent efforts to think out what any society ought to value. So what must we value as ethical people? They often reason, for example, that property has little meaning without life. And indeed, for my think that without life, there is no property. Property is useless without life. So supposing you become a very rich guy in a village, you are just a rich guy with everything, but you are just alone. Or I've seen people who have properties and they are rotting elsewhere in the graves somewhere. Cemeteries in Europe are full of rich guys. Rich guys are rotting. They rot a long time ago in the cemeteries in Europe. You go in the churches of Germany, they are bones of those kings, nobles, nobilities of those. They are rotting there. They cannot even. They don't even have fresh. So, but what does it matter? What does it add on a human person to value what you are going to lose without respecting the good of society? They are trying to determine logically what society ought to be like. That's number 5. Stage 5 respondents are working towards conception of the good society. They suggest that we need to protect certain individual rights and settle disputes through democratic processes. However, democratic processes alone do not always result in the outcome that we intuitively sense as just. Museveni will always say that he's democratic because he has managed to bribe parliamentarians with 5 million, with 29 million, with a position. They always talk about democratic, because the majority have spoken. A majority may vote for a law that hinders a minority. So you also think about what a minority goes through. Thus, Kohlberg believes that there must be a higher stage. Now we call stage 6, which defines the principles by which we achieve justice. So the question of justice. And stage 6, which will be the last stage, he calls it universal principles. Kohlberg's conception of justice follows what the philosopher Kant and Rawls, I wish we had more time I would go into them, but they are in the earlier notes that I gave, as well as great moral leaders such as Gandhi and Martin Luther King. According to these people, the principles of justice require us to treat the claims of all parties in an impartial manner, respecting the basic dignity of all peoples as individuals. Think about people as a people. Think about a person with a basic dignity. Respect that dignity and think of the justice that that person needs. Whether the person is mad or not mad, but that person is born with a certain dignity that must be upheld. And this is a universal principle that each person holds or lives with. The principles of justice are therefore universal. They apply to all. Thus, for example, we would not vote for a law that aids some people but hurts others. The principles of justice guide us toward the decision based on equal respect for all. Equal respect for everybody. In actual practice, Kohlberg says we can reach just decisions by looking at a situation through one's own eyes, or you put on the lenses of another person. And hence this dilemma. This would mean that all parties, the druggist, the Hens and his wife, take the role for the other. So you are the druggist. Think that you are the Hens' wife who is sick. Would you have loved that they don't give you that medicine that you are overcosting, or let's say you are hens. Think that you have created a medicine and you are putting some efforts. Would you give it out freely? So take another person's role. And actually, if you are making a policy, you also don't put a policy without thinking about this other person that is being affected. Think about this other person. To do this is an impartial manner. People can assume a veil of ignorance. So John Rawls calls it a veil of ignorance. You take the role of this other person, acting as if they do not know which role they are eventually occupy. So you don't know, you are making a policy. So you don't know actually what will this policy be to me. I don't know how it will affect me. Think if Amama Mbabazi knew that Public Order Management Act would act on the way it acted on him, whether would have passed it. No. So before you pass a law, before you pass a policy, take a veil of ignorance and see from the other angle, if the policy is being acted on you, how would you have felt? And this is what is failing within even the schools that we are in, even the university here where I am, even in the churches. So people are comfortable with their own position. They don't think about the position of tomorrow. So people who have gone to stage 6 on universal principles without thinking about universal. You put on what Rawls again calls the veil of ignorance. You act as if you don't know which role you occupy with that policy. What role do you occupy? Are you on an NRM policy or on an MOA when you are passing that law of Mbabazi? If you are a member of NRM, then try to go the other side and see if this act was passed on us, on me, how would I live by it? Then you would see that Grace Vinchira, who started that law, ended up being affected by it in Ruzira. Mbabazi, who passed the law and was a very serious enforcer of that law, you know how it happened. Even Kale Kayihura, who supported it, you know what is happening to him right now as I'm speaking. So that is a failure to start reasoning in a way that takes up the universal reasoning. So if the druggist did this, even he would recognize that life must take priority over property. For he wouldn't have risked finding himself in the wife's shoes with the property valued over his own life. He wouldn't have loved it. Thus, they would all agree that the wife must be saved. This would be a fair solution. Such a solution requires not only impartiality, but a principle that everyone is given full and equal respect. So if the wife were considered of less value than the other, a just solution could be reached at. Kohlberg has concluded that stage 6 has a clear and a broader conception of universal principles, which include justice as well as individual rights. But he feels that his interviews failed to draw out this broader understanding. Consequently, he temporarily drops the stage 6 from his scoring manual, calling it a theoretical stage, as scoring post-conventional responses at stage 5. But we know that these issues definitely, we have known some people in the world who have gone beyond stage 5. We can give examples. I don't know, do you know any person who has gone beyond stage 5 in your life, in whatever you have read or you have heard about? Am I speaking to people or I'm speaking to myself? Yeah.
Your network is unstable. I don't know if it is yours or mine, but unstable.
In government, I have not heard of.
You are one of
But
them. Very good.
I'm saying,
Mm,
yesterday I was saying that in government I have not heard of any,
mm.
but in my family at that level, I'm one of them.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. So stage 6 is an area that civil disobedience begins from. Stage 5 would be more hesitant in those civil disobedience because of the commitment to the social contract and changing laws through democratic agreements. It is only when an individual right is clearly at the stake does violating the laws seem justified. But stage 6, where justice is not shown, will always support civil disobedience. So what we call majorly serious activists of civil disobedience, serious ones, I'm not saying everyone, they are on stage 6. And among those, for me, I can put in Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela. There could be some others, but of course, stage 6 gets fewer and fewer people. A stage 6 commitment to justice makes a rationale for civil disobedience stronger and broader. Martin Luther King argued that laws are only valid insofar as they are grounded on justice, and that commitment to justice carries with it an obligation to obey unjust laws. Martin Luther King recognized that general need for laws and democratic processes. He was therefore willing to accept the penalties for his actions. Nevertheless, he believed that the higher principles of justice require civil disobedience. So this you can read by yourselves. You can read by yourselves, and I think this is where we get it. So I will not introduce this person now because I think we need about 30 minutes to end our class. Am I right? If we start at 5:30. So next week we shall start with the morality of Carol Gilligan. But before we end, I have something that I need to capture from you. Is this our third week or fourth week?
It's third week.
This is the third week. So I'm going to put this into a chat, and then please try to answer it. Can anybody reach this? I have put a form. Some of you are aware of it. Others may not be. But I want to capture what you have learned today. Have you received it? I see Stephen, I see Kasuku Ben. I see Namirembe and Barunji. Are you getting the form?
No, for me, I'm not getting the form, doctor.
It is on
Doctor, I've clicked on the website, on the link, and I've got a form which I'm feeding in.
Which
I'm typing in what
that's what
answering the
everybody could
questions
do.
that are there.
Please, Namirembe, can you go to chat? You get the form, then you type. As I come back, just give me 1 minute.
Members, how do I get the form?
Just go to the
Click on
chat,
that link in
copy it, or
the
click
chat.
on it and open it to open.
Hafsa,
Yes?
have you seen the form?
No.
Check your mail. I've sent on your mail.
On mail or WhatsApp?
Email.
Okay. Thank you.
Let him send on your WhatsApp.
Those that can send her WhatsApp, please do. Because I'm using my laptop.
I'm back. I don't see any response yet. I think we are still responding. I have one response so far. One response, am I still on one response?
We are still filling in.
Mhm. Barunji, you have already submitted. I would love to ask you to go into your portfolio because you have not submitted any portfolio.
I tried doing that. There's something you didn't highlight on how we are supposed to get from the drive and attaching it to the Moodle. I thought you'd help us learn that today, because we didn't finish that part of attaching it to.
Let everyone first finish, then I instruct. I hope everybody has a portfolio. Thank you very much, Ben. I have 2 responses so far. And 2 remaining. I have 3. 1 is remaining. Everyone has sent. I hope you are seeing my. So everybody says the material was helpful, and I think much of it was the case and some notes. Here, I see that fantastic and less fantastic. 3 things learned. One, distinguish morality and from confession, I believe.
Yes, me, I'm saying
Moral development, stages of moral development. Another one says, what is conscience? What is morality? Putting yourself in a well-being perspective. I don't understand very well. The third one says how to reason at different levels. The difference between moral behavior and convention and mastering of the different levels of thinking. Good. Conscience, morals are learned, the different stages of morals. Two things found interesting and what I would like to learn more. Stages of moral development, we shall begin on them next week, but from another angle, of the feminist angle. Actions of hence and having a feeling for others. How we should not think at individual level, but societal level, that a decision can benefit everyone, level 1 and level 4, centric. What morals are and different theories. What did you like about the study? I learned how the different stages reveal something different about morality. The moral perspective, the study opened my understanding of the importance of following morals and how they can guide our actions. I think you can also add on how they can lead us to live into a good society and perhaps good people. And by the way, people who live in good societies and are good people, they even live they become better people. Even the thinking and capacity level increases, mind you. But if we are living in a struggle becomes problems. That morals can change according to circumstances. I don't think we learned this, do we? Morals cannot change. Morals, they are standards, we call them normative. How do you feel? I feel excited and eager to learn more. Sense of helping others, grateful. I feel like I have more knowledge and understanding on morals. Why do you feel this way? I feel like learning has taken place because I'm human, I believe. There is something new I have added to my knowledge, especially when it comes to decision making, that it's wrong to decide for pleasure, but instead consider the right consequences. Good, because I have got a different understanding of morals. So I thank you, class, for this evaluation. So now we learned how to make a portfolio, and I told you, and I want to emphasize that this is the major part of our coursework, the major part of the coursework. So please, can you go to your portfolio? Can you go to your portfolio and let me know the level at which you are? I call by roll call, or any person everybody wants to speak by himself or herself. Let me go roll call. Barunji, how far are you?
I have it already.
Namirembe, how far are you?
Doctor, I have to create it.
You are in problems. Stephen, where are you?
I have it already.
So meaning that Stephen has, Ben has dropped off. So please, let's open our portfolio, except Namirembe, who has nothing. Open the portfolio.
It's opened.
It's open. That is Barunji. Stephen, is it open?
Not yet.
Namirembe, do you need some assistance? She does not need, so we are okay.
No, doctor, I think I don't know. I thought I would create it after so that I have it by the time we go for our next class.
You know, I want to follow it every time. Please, Ben, we are asking, open your portfolio. So if you open your portfolio, go on the view the published site, view published site. But first go to home and then view published site.
Doctor, I'd gone off. My internet had jammed. Maybe I don't know where we are now.
We are on the portfolio. We want to submit the link now because I have to get something that I will be following from you. So, do you have a
The
portfolio?
portfolio, you get it from?
Do you have it? You made it?
Sorry?
Did you create one?
No. Actually, doctor, I've been having a challenge with the system here.
Let me review for some time first. Those who are in it, please can you go to the Moodle class? Copy the site. Copy the site. If you go on publish, view publish, copy the site of the published one. If you copy, let me say yes so that we continue. Then all know that I wait for you.
So I copied the link for the one that has home.
Yes.
Done.
Done. So can you go back to your Moodle? If it is done, say done. If it is not,
Done.
okay. So if you go to the portfolio area, open that link of portfolio. Let me see what it does anyway. That's you have clicked on it.
Not yet.
Yes, I have.
You will see somewhere in red assignment overdue by 20 hours.
Yes.
So you can see that is now overdue. Anyway, let's see. Do you see add submission?
Yes.
Can you click on add submission?
Yes, I have. I'm seeing online text and then file submissions.
You say, okay, add submission.
Should I add it under online text or?
No, you see where the online text, there are the arrow that goes down, then there is a B, I, then bullet. then numbers, then the next one is link.
I click the one that has link.
Click on link.
I put it there.
What has come?
Enter the URL.
Can you paste it?
Should I open the link now? Create the link.
Say enter the link. Then open in a new window. Click on that to open a new window.
Yes, I have.
Okay, create a link.
Okay, there is nothing happening. I don't know.
Oh, something happens. Then you go down.
Doctor, nothing happens.
Oh, something happens. Something happens. Something will happen. Something will happen. When you say add, you put in that link that you copied. You understand?
It's only appearing in the dialog box, but I'm seeing nothing.
Let me. Can you open? Can you open the class?
I'm being asked to save the changes.
Save them. Because you are submitting it to me anyway.
I have submitted for grading.
You are a stage higher than any other person, mind you.
Doctor, submission for grading?
Yes.
And then below online texts, there's a link. That's a link.
Yes.
Other side. That's where we are.
Yes, please.
So do we edit or?
No, simply submit. Add submission.
Add submission. There are only two options. Edit or remove submission.
No, you have already, by the way, you have already, who is this speaking? I have two submissions. Let me see who, Ayesiga Barunji has submitted and Stephen. Let me open the one of Stephen. Barunji, I can say you are, but you have not at all worked on it. You have not yet showed you are learning. So please, Barunji.
Yes, please.
So you continue working, you edit your work, you continue editing it and putting your learning, for example, foundation of ethics, then the other one, so you tell us what you learned about foundations and you get some assets. The assets I'm talking about, videos and other things. Because now it shows that you have done nothing apart from creating it. Let me open there.
So doctor, before we submit, we have to first fill in the learnings for the last two, whatever. Lectures.
You have submitted. Don't submit. You add, after adding, you say publish. For me, I have the link already. I will be getting the published one. Am I understood?
Okay, we just do it from our main page.
Your main page, and other pages. Okay.
So automatically you have it.
No, I have it.
All right.
Even Stephen has not yet worked on it. So, members, can I ask you? I am asking now Barunji and Stephen to help your colleagues. Help your colleagues to submit this work.
Okay, we will guide them through how to open a portfolio and take them through how they can get where we are.
Very good.
Doctor, if I may ask again,
Yes,
since we created 3 more pages, apart from the home page, we created one for research, then for policy, maybe and ethics. Do we have to keep posting the learnings in a separate folder or page? Let me say now we have done ethics, so we post under ethics.
Your learning has will be done. We are still on foundations of ethics. So now you're going to capture what you have learned already on this. And when you go into policy, I'll tell you that we are going into policy. If you go to research, I'll tell you that we are going to research. You'll also be seeing. And then please always capture what you have learned. And edit,
All right,
and
Doctor.
put materials on what you have learned.
All right. We shall endeavor to update.
So can I call it an evening?
Okay, thank you.
Next week, the same time?
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much. I'm going to close. Or you still want to discuss among yourselves? I can leave it open. Hello?
Doctor, you can close.
I close completely because or you still want to discuss. I can get out of myself, then you continue working. That's what I'm talking about.
We shall discuss on another platform later.
You will discuss on another platform. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Have a nice evening.